that he didn't kill him. Okay. I guess she's the host again. So he didn't kill Shaul, even though he had opportunity to kill Shaul. He let Shaul know that he didn't kill him. And Shaul's very warmed to him again and decides that he's not going to chase David HaMelech anymore. And then Shaul's men are not so happy about this whole story, and so they convince Shaul that David is not innocent and that they should continue to pursue him and to try and kill David. And they say to David, they say to Shaul, of course David didn't kill you. He knew that if he killed you, we would kill him. So that was the reason that he didn't kill you. It had nothing to do with his greatness and him wanting to care for you and not kill you. So Shaul gets angry at David, if we could say that, and he gets an army of 3,000 men, and off they go chasing David again. They chase David into the desert of Ziph, and that's what brings us to this chapter, where they are in Ziph, in this being pursued. And once again, Hashem is going to help David. So Shaul and his 3,000 men set up camp, and it's nighttime, and they go to sleep. And the miracle that happens is that Hashem makes Shaul and his whole army sleep very, very deeply. And David and his right-hand man, Avishai, come into the camp where Shaul is, and he's sleeping there with his spear by his head, and his right-hand man, Avner, protectively looking after him, but also fast asleep. And this would have been such an easy time. In fact, Avishai says, let's kill Shaul with his own spear. We'll take the spear that's right next to his head and murder him. And David says, no, don't murder him. No one can murder somebody who has been anointed by Hashem and then be forgiven by Hashem. So in other words, Shaul HaMelech is the king. He's been anointed by Hashem, and therefore we have no right to kill him. And so they don't. But what do they do at this point is that David cuts off a little piece of Shaul's cloak, and he takes it with him, and they also take the spear from next to his head, and they also take the water jug that's right there. So they'll be able to show Shaul afterwards that they really had opportunity to kill him. They were really there, and they could have killed him, and they didn't kill him, and Shaul should forgive them. So actually, the Medrash tells us that there were 3 different times that David HaMelech had opportunity to kill Shaul, and he didn't. And the Medrash goes with a very famous story that you've probably all heard, at least partly. That one day, David HaMelech was sitting in his garden, and he saw a flea attacking a spider. And then a crazy guy came by, and with a stick, he chased away the flea and the spider, and he ran away. And David turns to Hashem and he says, Ribbono Shel Olam, you've created a lot of strange things in your world. And these 3 things are really strange. A flea bites for no purpose. It gets no benefit from biting. It bites and just bothers people. And it seems to be its only purpose. A spider weaves and weaves and weaves, and nobody wears clothes made from spider webs. And mad people, what is the purpose? They just bother other humans. What is the purpose of them being created? And Hashem says to David, every single thing that I created in the world has a purpose, and you know what, David, you will see the purpose in each of these 3 things. And so the story is told how the first time that David is captured by King Achish, he pretends to be crazy. And Achish has a crazy wife and crazy children. And when he sees now that he's got a crazy prisoner, he says to his soldiers, let him go. Okay, I don't need any more crazy people around me. And David is saved. He says, oh, now I understand that there is a purpose in the world for craziness, for being really crazy. The second time that David is saved, he's being chased by Shaul, probably the most famous of the stories. He hides in a cave, and Shaul's pretty sure that David will be hiding in one of these caves over here, and he's with his men, and they see a cave, which they think probably David is inside. But in the meantime, a spider has spun his nest, spun his whatever you call it, across the entrance to the cave. And when Shaul walks past, he says, well, he can't be in this cave. It's got a spider's web right across it. So obviously no one went in here recently. And sure enough, David is in there, and he realizes that he's been saved. His life has been saved by a spider web. And he goes over to the spider. It says that David kissed the spider and he said, blessed is your creator. Now understand that everything that's put into this world has, or almost everything in this world has a purpose. So that's the second time that David is saved. And the third time that David is saved, which is this perek that we are dealing with. This is the story of the flea, obviously. So David and Avishai come into to Shaul, and Shaul's sleeping, as I mentioned before, and his protector, his security guard, is lying next to him, but with his feet around him like a wall. And how they get him, so he actually had his feet up, and David decides that he's going to crawl underneath the feet of Avner, and he's going to be able to cut off a little piece of Shaul's cloak. And as David goes under Avner's feet, Avner obviously relaxes very nicely, puts his feet down, and David is trapped. And there's no way that he's going to be able to escape from there without waking up the people, and then he's going to be killed. So he starts davening. He says, Hashem, you've got to help me. How am I going to get out of here? I'm trapped under the feet of Avner. And Hashem sends a flea who bites Avner's foot, and he moves it right away, and David is freed. And so now David has figured out that there are purpose in every single creation that there is. And this is chapter Nun Ches, when he has been freed by the flea, and he has taken the little piece of Shaul's clothing, cloak and spear and water jug. So now let's look into the perek itself. Begins Lam Natseach, okay, which is to the conductor. In other words, this is a perek of Tehillim which is being sung in the Beis HaMikdash. So if we're understanding it like that, Al Tashchet, on the instrument, on the musical instrument called the tashchet. And actually, there's only 3 chapters in Tehillim, this one and the next 2, which also say Lam Natseach al Tashchet, and and the one before. 3 kapitlach of Tehillim. This is the second one, that this particular instrument, the tashchet, was used for playing when the Levim sang this song in the Beis HaMikdash. Al Tashchet also means destroy. You probably recognize the word tashchet from Bal Tashchet, where we're not allowed to destroy something for nothing. And this is our first instruction, not as a history, but as an instruction to us. Al Tashchet, don't destroy. So our message, our takeaway message from these first few words is that even when you have opportunity to destroy something, we have to stop and think first. Here, David HaMelech, who had opportunity to kill Shaul, and he says, no, that would be destroying what Hashem intended for the world. Al Tashchet, don't destroy. And any time that we're ready to destroy something, we have to come back with this message in our heads, Al Tashchet, don't destroy. And how great is it not to destroy? Says michtam. Again, the literal translation of the word michtam just simply means a composition. So if we were reading this first line of Tehillim itself, we would read Lam Natseach to the conductor, Al Tashchet on the tashchet instrument, Le David, the instructions of David, michtam from his composition that he wrote. But Rashi says no. He says, look at this much more deeply. He says michtam actually literally means a crown. And he says, this is the crown of David's achievements. Now, any of us would say, this is not the crown of David's achievements. David became king. He got everything ready to have a Beis HaMikdash. He fought the wars and got the Jewish people like nicely entrenched in Israel. What does it mean that he didn't kill Shaul is michtam, is his highest of achievements? And the commentaries on Rashi actually explain that is his highest achievement. The highest achievement a person can have is when they do something noble, they do something gracious, and nobody really knows about it. Nobody sees it as something particularly great. It's like part of the day, and they've done this incredibly great thing quietly. This is michtam. This is the crown that we all want to wear. The Perek continues and says, "Ha'umnam elim, are you just being quiet? Tzedek tedaberim, speak righteousness. Meisharim tishbetu b'nei Adam, are you judging humans honestly?" So again, looking at this as a history story, this would be David speaking to Avner and saying to him, why weren't you looking after Shaul properly? You were the security guard of the king of Israel, and you went to sleep. Okay, and he could have been killed. We could. Can you keep quiet when you weren't even doing your job properly? When you weren't you weren't acting in a righteous way, and you're accusing me now, David, of being bad. How can you be quiet in such a situation? One step further in understanding this, David is talking to the people of Israel, and he's saying, why are you allowing Shaul to be so influenced by what he's hearing? Ha'umnam eilem, aren't you being silent when you should be speaking? You should be telling everyone that I, David, am innocent, that I haven't done anything to deserve being pursued and try to be killed by Shaul and his men. So this is again at a history level of understanding Ha'umnam eilem. The commentaries tell us that we have to ask ourselves this question all the time. Ha'umnam eilem tzedek tedaberim. Are we being quiet when we're supposed to be speaking righteousness? And we always have this debate with ourselves, so to speak. Should I get involved? Should I not get involved? Should I just keep quiet? Should I just let this pass? How do we react to the situations that we see around us? And David HaMelech tells us very clearly, Ha'umnam eilem, are you allowed to be silent when tzedek tedaberim, when you should be speaking righteousness? And the commentaries ask, what is this righteousness that we should be speaking? And I saw an interesting explanation that said, not everyone wants to get involved in everything. So sometimes you know that something that's going on is not right, but you don't want to speak up because you don't necessarily want to get involved. So the whole debate is, are we responsible to, are we not responsible to? But I saw a beautiful explanation for this or understanding of this. If you don't want to get involved, if you want ha'umnam eilem, you want to be quiet, then tzedek tedaberim, speak great things. In other words, take out a Tehillim and say a kapitel of Tehillim. Take out a Sefer and learn something. Speak righteousness that will benefit this negative situation on a more spiritual level. And you don't have to then get involved in exactly what's happening there, but you are tzedek tedaberim. You're not just ignoring it. You are doing something correct with what you are seeing going on around you. Pasuk Gimel. Again, we're looking at first in history and literal sense of this. Af believe eile tifalun ba'aras Hamas yedechem tefalesim. Even in your hearts, you are you committing evil. We in Perek 58, if you are following inside. So even in your heart you're committing evil. Your hands are putting out violence on the whole land. So again, this is at a history level. This is still David speaking to Shaul's right-hand man, telling him that what he's doing is absolutely corrupt, it's unfair, he's causing fighting, he's causing strife in the land. He continues by saying, Zoru Rasha'im Merechem, wicked people are bad from the womb. Ta'u mi beten dorechazav. They commit, from their birth, from the stomach, dorechazav, they already are lying, telling bad things. So the commentaries discuss this very much. So what is David saying over here, Zoru Rasha'im Merachim, that wicked people are bad from the womb? And they say literally that wicked people are bad from the womb, and bring a lot of examples. Rashi brings the example of Esav, the famous story of Rivka when she was pregnant with the twins, and that Esav was already trying to go towards Avodah Zarah. He was trying to go towards wickedness from when he was still in utero, and the opposite. Yaakov, who was good, was trying to go towards Hashem, to seek Hashem in utero. Other commentaries bring similar kinds of stories. The Gemara tells how there is such a rule that if a woman is craving something, and she's craving, and she's pregnant, and she's craving it so much that she's afraid that if she doesn't have it, she'll miscarry. And the Gemara tells us such a thing, that if a woman would be craving the meat from the korbanos on Yom Kippur, if she says, I'll miscarry if I don't have some of that meat, you would be allowed to give her that meat to eat. And if a woman was craving treif meat while she's pregnant, and she says, if I don't get that meat, I'll miscarry, she would even be permitted to eat treif meat. But there's one thing that you have to do first. It says, go over to the stomach and say to the stomach, it's Yom Kippur today. Or say to the stomach, this meat is treif. And the Gemara says that what will happen is that the woman will stop having her craving. How does the Gemara know that? And this is one of the sources. It says that from the womb, the person is already able to connect with Hashem or turn away from Hashem, if that's what it chooses. And so the Malbim says this isn't fair. This is just so not fair. If she's saying that from the womb a person is wicked or a person is good, then what free choice? What choice do any of us have, right? Anything I do wrong, I'm going to just say, well, that's how I was born. Already you could, that already from the womb. David HaMelech says so. So what does David HaMelech actually mean when he says that this is what a person is from the womb? And the Malbim explains that we still have free choice, even though we all have different abilities to control and to like and to dislike. So every single person is born differently, and every single person will have different desires, and every single person will have different abilities to fulfill their desires or not to fulfill their desires, whether it's their wisdom or it's their financial status or it's the place that they're living. And so he says, Zoru Rasha'im Merechem, that they might have this desire to do bad, but then they possibly also are living in a very good place, and they've got very good teachers, and they've got the means to be good. So they're not forced to be bad just because they have a bigger inclination to do bad. And the same thing with good is that we all have different koichos, we all have different strengths, different abilities, and we are not forced to do good or bad because of our personality. We have the ability to make that decision, even though for each person it will be different. Some people will be easier, and some people it will be harder for them. Continues and explains in Pasuk Hey, Chamas lamai bidmus chamas nachash k'may fesen cheresh ya'atef ozno. He says the poison is like the poison of a snake, or the poison of a deaf snake who cannot who can't hear the charmers, the thing. So two different understandings, or two levels of understanding of what this pasuk is saying. What is the poison of a snake? And the Rebbe discusses this in a lot of detail, the difference between the different kinds of poisons. The Rebbe points out that there is a halacha. It says in regular Shulchan Aruch that if a person is standing and davening Shemona Esrei, and they see a snake coming towards them, they are supposed to carry on davening, finish their davening, and then run away, run for their lives, or whatever they're going to do. And then the halacha continues and says, but if you're standing and davening Shemona Esrei, and you see a scorpion, then you should stop where you are and run for your life. Okay, and the Rebbe says, is this a practical halacha? I don't know about you guys, but if I saw a snake, I wouldn't stop and think, well, it says in halacha that if I see a snake, I should stand still and carry on davening. I would be screaming and running for my life. Actually, it wouldn't even have to be a snake. It might even just be a mouse or something like that. But the halacha speaks about snakes and scorpions. And the Rebbe explains that the poison of a snake and the poison of a scorpion represent two different kinds of Yetzer Haras. The poison of a snake is hot. Apparently, if a snake bites somebody, they feel like they're burning hot. And the poison of a scorpion is a cold poison. A person with a scorpion bite, apparently they start shivering, they're freezing. That's the way the poison works. And the Rebbe explains that there's two different ways that the Yetzer Hara comes to us when we're davening. Either it comes as a hot poison or it comes as a cold poison. So I give you this scenario. You're standing and davening, you came to daven Shemona Esrei, and as you walk back your first 3 steps and you come forward, you're about to start the Amidah, and all of a sudden you remember your list that you left at home, your shopping list, and you start going over it in your head. And then you think about the guests you're having on Friday night and a good menu for them. And you also still have to fetch this person, and you mustn't forget to call that person. And all of a sudden, you are at the end of Shemona Esrei. You're about to walk back the 3 steps and say, oh my gosh, I really meant to daven properly today. And I said all the words, obviously, but my head was so busy with everything. What happened? And the Rebbe says that is a hot poison. What does it mean, a hot poison? It distracted us from davening, but it was life that distracted us from davening. So many things going on in our heads, so many things happening in our life, that it's just natural, unfortunately, that we sometimes get distracted by those things. If we are attacked by a hot poison, the poison of a snake, carry on davening. You'll be okay. Just now you'll daven nicely. It's okay. Tomorrow maybe will be better. You're okay. The trouble is if we get attacked by a cold poison. And I put this scenario to you. You're about to start davening, you walk back 3 steps, you walk forward 3 steps, and your head is blank. You're not thinking about your Shabbos guests, and you're not thinking about your shopping list, and you're not thinking about the people you still have to call. You're just standing there, and your lips are moving. And also the same thing happens. You suddenly realize that you're at the end of the Shemona Esrei, and you're walking back 3 steps, and you're finished. That's a cold poison. A cold poison when you have no reason not to be connecting during your davening, you just are not connecting. And for that, the Rebbe says, if you get bitten by a scorpion or you see a scorpion, that's when you got to run for your life. We've got to stop and ask ourselves, why are we not connecting? What's going on? What is happening? And figure out a way to get rid of the scorpion. And so here in this pasuk, David HaMelech is talking about Chamas Lamai Bidmus Chamas Nachash. We're talking about the poison, like the poison of a snake. That David HaMelech is reminding us. He says we must be careful of the poison of a snake, because but as long as it's the poison of the snake, okay, at this point, up to this part of the pasuk, we're still okay. We know that right now we're busy thinking about other things, but we'll come back. We will come back. But then David HaMelech speaks on the next part of the pasuk. He says, what are we doing? We're like a deaf snake, the poison of a deaf snake. And what is this deaf snake? Is that we aren't prepared to come back. We don't want to hear. We don't want to hear the charmers. We don't want to hear the snake person is blowing his ear. We don't want to come back. We're happy in our space of being involved in everything else and not connecting with Hashem. That's dangerous, says David HaMelech. He says, don't be like the deaf snake, right? If we are like the regular snake, it's okay, we'll come back. But if we like the deaf snake, then we are in trouble. He says, what is this about the deaf snake? Pasuk Vav, Asher lo yishma l'kol malach Hashem. It's not listening to the sound of the charmers, or any of the enchanters. He says, Pasuk Zayin, Elekim, haras shinema befil. Smash the teeth in its mouth. Maltais Kafirim Natotes Hashem. The teeth of the Kafirim are the little lions that are smashing up, they're biting, and he's asking Hashem to do this. So now David HaMelech is coming with another way, another request of Hashem. Again, at a history level, the request of Hashem is destroy Shaul's men. Okay, that's the make them unable to fight me, make them unable to pursue me, make them, whether it's because they don't want to, whatever. So that's at the surface level, the first level of what this parak is talking about. As we said, David is talking to Hashem now, and he says, Hashem, please. The last parak Nun and Zion, David HaMelech was asking Hashem, please let them know that I didn't do bad. Tell them that I could have killed Shaul and I didn't. And this parak, we're not even trying to convince them anything. They are like deaf snakes. They don't want to hear that I didn't do bad. So now what I'm asking you, Hashem, is destroy them. Make them unable to fight me. At a deeper level, what is David HaMelech talking about? So we're going back to the Yetzer Hara. This is what David is explaining to us. And so the first way of dealing with the Yetzer Hara, which was last parak, was convince the Yetzer Hara that this is not interesting. Convince the Yetzer Hara that this is something that you shouldn't be doing. But if that's not going to work, then says David HaMelech in this chapter, smash the Yetzer Hara. Destroy the Yetzer Hara, make the Yetzer Hara unable to harm us or to tempt us or anything anymore. And David uses very interesting imagery over here. He says, break its teeth, break its fangs, okay, from these little lions. So two lessons that we get over here about the Yetzer Hara. So the first thing is this concept of breaking its teeth, and it's quite time appropriate. In the Haggadah, we also have the story of the Rasha, the wicked guy. And what is the Haggadah's response? How should you respond to the Rasha, the wicked son? You should smash his teeth in, right? Like smash his teeth in. I don't think it would be a nice Seder in anyone's home if somebody at your table asked you a question that you didn't like and you smashed their teeth in. So, like, what does the Haggadah actually mean when it says smash his teeth? And I heard Rebbetzin Hella explain it very beautifully. She said, what do teeth do? Teeth take big things and they make them small. And what does the Yetzer Hara do to us? It makes big things out of small things. Smashing the teeth is saying, listen, teeth, okay, all those big, well, listen, human, not listen, teeth, but all those things that are so big and seem so impossible and seem so whatever, and it's making me sin, let's chew it down. Let's smash the teeth, let's bring it down to sizable, chewable things that I can do, that I can manage. And this is what David HaMelech is telling us over here. When you have to deal with the Yetzer Hara, one of the ways that we deal with the Yetzer Hara is smash his teeth. Take all those things that the Yetzer Hara is taking, those big things, and making small. Let us know that these are big, that these are things that we do need to keep, that we can chew, that we can deal with. And so that's our first lesson from the picture over here that David is painting. The second picture that David is painting in this pasuk is of little cubs. with their fangs, and they are the picture that you should have is after watching a kill, right? The lions have all got their meat in their mouths, and they are happy as anything. Malta'is kafirim nutates, and like they are lions, and they little lions, and they're destroying. And says the commentaries that this is talking dafka about the sin of lashon hara. Lashon hara is as ferocious as a lion eating its the meat after a kill. And it says that one of the biggest things that we have to do to stop the Yetzer Hara is to stop, to destroy, and to end lashon hara. So these are the two things, and David HaMelech is actually asking Hashem, Hashem, I'm asking you to help to smash the teeth of the lions who are sitting there. And he explains very again with different imagery. He says, let them melt like water, and let them crumble to little pieces, let them just disappear. So again, bringing it back to the history level, this is what David's prayer to Hashem, that Shaul's army and Shaul's men should just melt away, that they should be rendered unable, that they shouldn't be able to harm David at all. Interesting also to know that Shaul's man who was protecting him was so tall and so strong. It says about him that he used to say, if the world had a handle, I could pick it up and shake it around. Okay, that's how strong he was. And here David HaMelech is saying to Hashem, take the strong man and protect me. Okay, render him unable to harm me. Now coming back to the deeper level, that of the Yetzer Hara, no matter how strong our Yetzer Hara is, and no matter how much it's tempting us, and no matter how much difficulty we are having with our Yetzer Haras tempting us, one of the ways of dealing with our Yetzer Hara is asking Hashem to take it away from us. Ask Hashem to help us smash it. Ask Hashem to help us melt it. Ask Hashem whatever imagery works for you. For David HaMelech said, make our Yetzer Hara melt away like water. Make our Yetzer Hara crumble into nothing. Whatever it is that we need. And David HaMelech continues asking Hashem. He says, "K'may shabalul temes," like a disappearing snail, Yahalech goes. And also nefel eshes bal chazusham, so like a miscarriage of a woman that's never seen the sun. So a snail, interestingly, as it disappears, sorry, it leaves behind a trail. So if you had a snail and you put out salt or poison or whatever, the snail is not alive anymore. It actually just melts to nothing. But you'll see snail lines all around wherever the snail walked. And says this is speaking again specifically about the Yetzer Hara of lashon, the Yetzer Hara of speaking lashon hara. That when we speak lashon hara, even when we stop speaking lashon hara, we leave a trail. We leave a trail behind us. And this is again why lashon hara is so dangerous. And then he brings a second image of a miscarriage that's never seen the sun. So the sun is referring to Torah, mitzvahs, good life. And so David HaMelech is actually saying that it's not really always the person's fault that they aren't inspired or motivated. Sometimes they just haven't seen the light. They haven't seen the sun. And David is pointing that out to Hashem, that when you destroy these Yetzer Haras, when you destroy these temptations, like know why they got tempted, know why they were doing those things, because they never saw the sun, they never understood. And then David continues, Pasuk Yud, and he says, "B'terem yavinu sirasechem," before they can bring their thorns. Atzad k'may chai k'may chara nisarenu. Their thorns are angry and vicious, and I'm asking you, Hashem, sweep them away, get rid of them. So again, coming back to the history understanding of this, the Gemara tells that when David HaMelech presented the piece of Shaul's cloak and the spear and the jug, and he said, look, I could have killed you. I was so close to you that I could cut off a piece of your clothing, and I could take your water jug from next to your bed, and I could take your spear that was right next to your head, and I didn't kill you. So his men try to tell him, Shaul's men try to tell him that don't think David was so great. He didn't really get that close to you. You were walking somewhere and your cloak got caught on a thorn bush, and David found it. And now he comes to you and he says, I cut off a piece of your cloak. He never got anywhere near you. He took off a little piece of your cloak that was stuck on a thorn bush. And then when Shaul said, so what about the water jug? Probably when we went to the water hole and we were drinking, you left your water jug behind. And David HaMelech came to the same watering hole and he found that jug and he got it. I'm telling you, he never came anywhere near enough to you. So that was, again, at a history level of understanding. At a practical Yetzer Hara level, we always look for reason. We always look for excuses. We always say it wasn't really doing that, right? It was caught on a thorn, so to speak. It was left at the waterhole. We always find excuses for what we did wrong, or to justify what we are doing. And so David HaMelech says over here, "B'terem yavinu sirei seichem," before they can understand and come with excuses, sirei seichem, of your thorns, right? Of your justifications, of your explaining why you are doing all these things. I'm asking you, Hashem, wash it away. Do away with us. And David HaMelech finishes, he says, Yismach Tzadik, a righteous person will rejoice, Ki chazon nakam, when he sees the revenge, Pamav Yerchatz B'dam Harasha, when he could wash his feet in the blood of the wicked person. In other words, says David HaMelech, when somebody who's righteous sees that the wicked people are punished, we feel happy, not that they punished, but we feel happy that righteousness overcame evil. Because the most difficult thing that we deal with in understanding Hashem is why we see wickedness flourish. And so David is dealing with that question over here, and he's saying, Hashem, give us that time where we'll be able to see that wicked don't flourish and that righteous people do. And when will this be? Vayomer Adam ach pri latzadik. A person will be able to say, there is reward for righteousness. Ach yesh Elokim, there is a God, shoftim ba'aretz, who dwells, who judges in this land. And that is, again, just a taste of Perek Nun Ches. I wish you all